Yes, Mr. Shaskalson.
Chair, the next topic that I want to move to is the promotion of Brigadier Mkhwanazi. And it's an issue that we traversed briefly yesterday with Mrs. Gxasheka with reference to documents that are attached to the Mashiza bundle. And the promotion documents they start at page 59 actually 58 of the annexure bundle, to Dr. Mashazi. I had merged two witnesses. It's late in the day and in the week. I apologize. So it's page 58 of the Mashazi bundle, and through to pages, and then the next document is 59 to 62. And 58 is the, certainly, sorry.
May the attorneys please assist Mrs. Gxasheka. You, Mr. Shaskalson, you'll please take us through what you want to. Oh yeah.
And I can. Thank you. It is a document dated 24 October 2023. I'll come back to the date a little later. It's an interview summary and recommendation for a panel for the appointment of Deputy Chief of Police Operations and Specialized Services. The date is 24 October 2023. So that is after the restructuring of disciplinary matters, and it's after the instruction in relation to the forensic report. And in that context, Brigadier Mkhwanazi applies for promotion. And can you take us through this document? Because it's not clear to me. I see you were on the panel. I see Chief Mapie was on the panel. There's a Ms. Zanele Katembo, who also appears to have been on the panel. Who is she?
Your mic, please.
Zanele Katembo was an HOD for Gxasheka, that it's sports, recreation, arts and culture. That was her role, I think, at that time. Thank you, Chair.
And Advocate Behari was also on the panel, although it seems that he wasn't present at the interview. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And there was someone from HR Secretariat, but she didn't play a role in the interviews. The upshot of the interview was that a recommendation was made that Brigadier Mkhwanazi should be promoted to the post of Deputy Chief of Police Specialized Services. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, I simply want to ask you, in a context where charges of the nature that had been laid against Brigadier Mkhwanazi were still out there, hadn't been resolved, why did you see fit to recommend him for promotion to a more senior position?
As I say, by that time, Chair, it was clear that the process of the DC it's not going to continue. And obviously, the employee has been exonerated, given a letter that the process is not continuing.
Sorry,
And-
can I interrupt there? The employee was never exonerated. No one ever said you have been found not guilty of any of these charges. At best, what happened was that the process of proceeding with the charges was frustrated through a series of, well, at best, gross inefficiencies, at worst, deliberate sabotage. There was no exoneration.
I'll rephrase. Remember, this is an employee who's sitting with a letter that says we're no longer continuing with the investigation process and whatever.
But
And
sorry,
he has
can I
applied
take
for
you
the
up? Sorry, can I
position.
come in there as well? Because that letter says we're no longer continuing with the investigation process. But in fact, the investigation process had been finished by then. There was the investigation was over. What was now needing to happen was a disciplinary hearing. There's no need for further investigation, just for a hearing to take place.
Yes, he was also told go back to your substantive post, continue with your work. So, firstly, for the employee to apply the position, the understanding is that this DC is not continuing, and at that time there was no disciplinary hearing that is continuing. As I say, based on my initial testimony, my earlier testimony, and the legal opinion, if it was then done by then, I can't recall. So we could not prejudice the employee in this particular time. Hence, he applied as well, like everybody else.
Sorry, which legal opinion said that you could not proceed in, I think it was October 2023?
As I say, if I recall events, there was a legal opinion, I think we discussed it, that said there are no fraud issues against him. Maybe it's the way I'm putting it. So at this point in time, the mere fact that we continue, there was no disciplinary process that is continuing. Check. Thank you.
You see, whether or not there was a disciplinary process pending is a separate question from whether this applicant is a fit and proper person for this promotion. And I struggle with the notion that someone against whom allegations of that nature have been leveled and have reached the point of proceeding to a hearing only for a charge sheet not to be served is fit and proper to be a deputy head of police. What's your response to that?
I hear the inference on your side. On my side, in terms of the procedure, there was no DC that was happening, and therefore there will be no reason to say we are not shortlisting you because you are not meeting. I mean, there's a pending DC because clearly there was no pending DC.
There was a directive by IPID that he should be charged. And that directive is binding on the city of Ekurhuleni.
I didn't see it that time.
But you say the opinion exonerated him. That opinion is the opinion that said IPID must be disregarded. Which other opinion are you referring to?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, so that's why I'm saying there was a directive by IPID. and that opinion was responding to the directive. So you cannot say there was nothing pending. There was a pending directive by IPID. The fact that Ekurhuleni did not comply with it does not mean there was no pending directive by IPID that Mkhwanazi should be disciplined.
I hear you, Chair. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Gxasheka, the question still, Mr. Chaskalson's question still stands, that the disciplinary process is not complete, it's not shut down, not by the letter from Chief Mapie, because he speaks, as Mr. Chaskalson says, he speaks of an investigation. You then recommend the candidate. And the question is, how in your judgment is it appropriate for you in particular to recommend such a candidate for a promotion to Deputy Chief of Police on such serious charges?
Chair, thank you. I'm still saying that at that point in time, halted or suspended the DC, it would have been a prejudice not to give him an opportunity to complete with other candidates.
The issue is not why did you interview him, because competing with other candidates is at interview stage. I mean, even the worst of, we've got a list, so I need to explain what I'm going to say next. We know from your vetting results, that some people were found to be rapists, but they're in the employ of the city. So even that person who is found to be a rapist, when they apply, you would have looked at, do they meet the requirements for shortlisting, right? And then you would shortlist them. And that's a fair for them to come and justify to the panel why they are suitable for appointment. So we are past that. You've shortlisted. You, head of HR, are aware that there are these unresolved charges, serious charges against this individual. How do you make the judgment that it's appropriate to recommend him for appointment?
My judgment, Chair, was based on procedurally. I thought it's fair to give, if there's a halt or stopped DC, you give a candidate an opportunity like everybody else. If indeed at some point you are found guilty, you will always be dismissed.
No, he was never going to be found guilty because the city manager has given you an instruction. Remember that earlier conversation?
Yes.
So you say the city manager gave an instruction, and that's why that explains your inactivity about further disciplinary steps. So that has ended, but he's never been exonerated of these serious charges. He's never been. Here's the HOD of Human Resources. The what do you call it? The one who gives direction, supposedly, on matters of discipline and how people should behave and what is tolerable behavior. You recommend his promotion. That is a problem. Do you accept that?
I said, Chair, that it is an oversight. We could have done better. I advise on the other side that procedural. In fact, it's just that the reason I don't want even to talk to it because it was not recorded. I said after the shortlisting, because no employee at EMPD met the requirements, it was only these two. I then said, let's not proceed. Let's re-advertise. And because we already didn't extend the contract of Mr. Mzolo, the chief pushed that we do interviews. And I think when you go for interviews, you might anticipate a particular outcome if you want to, but interviews will always surprise you. And then once it's recorded and we made this recommendation, it's difficult to go back. If we could have restarted the process, maybe we won't be here. But I'm taking full accountability that I should have stopped the process when I said, let's stop the process.
Yeah. Well, we're at a point where you did not stop the process.
Yes.
you interview, you know the problem about this candidate, you recommend, you do a positive act. You're saying he's suitable for the position. That's what this conversation is about. So
Yes.
it's not oversight at all. It doesn't fall in the category of oversight. It would be oversight if you didn't know that there were these accusations against him or you were mistaken about something, right? Here, you know this is unresolved. There's serious allegations against him. And we do have evidence here where EMPD conducted an investigation. And you would have seen that. You know that, as Commissioner Khumalo says, you know that IPID has directed that he should be disciplined. You have testified that, well, it was frustrated / there were instructions. Now we come to you personally. Why do you recommend such a defective candidate whose defects are known to you, are recorded in a charge sheet? How do you, head of HR,
The process
say, oh, he can be promoted, he's suitable for the position?
The process was halt, and the employee competed with other candidates, and we shortlisted, we interviewed, and he did well on that interview. I agree that in terms of the character, we could have done better, and I'm taking full accountability that we could have done better. But the process is on its own. It's not even a process that is made only by myself. It's a process that is made by the panel. As much as I've advised, and I'm taking full responsibility, I'm not going to say I'm instructed in this one. If there were instructions, they were not given to me. The only thing that we did was to score, and the person who scored him higher and therefore was recommended.
So is it fair to say that you saw nothing wrong? The short answer, at that time, now with hindsight, maybe you say, well, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Maybe that's what you're saying. I don't know if that's what you're saying, but I'm asking, in the moment when you recommend that he's suitable for promotion, you did not see any problem with that? You considered him...
It was a red flag. It was a red flag. And as I say, I think what was left is how you debate it. Remember, at the time, as much as I can recall, there was not even a criminal record against him, but there were pending allegations against him. And unfortunately, we didn't get to test them to the end.
No, you may not have tested them as a panel. And the conversation really... We've had the same conversation with Chief Mapie and raised our concerns about his own conduct with this interview, rather with recommending Commissioner Mkhwanazi. It's exactly the same concern with you. And this is not a panel concern, it's a concern about you individually, you as a person who knows the problems that have been raised about this candidate, who knows that there's either an aborted disciplinary process or suspended disciplinary process, whatever language you choose for it. He's never been exonerated, and you have to accept that. I think you've accepted that yes. He was never exonerated of these serious charges. You sit there and you determine he's fit and proper, notwithstanding he's fit and proper to be promoted to the position. That's a difficulty I have with you about either it's a sign of poor judgment on your part, at least from where I'm sitting, or it's something more serious, that you were prepared, because it's Mkhwanazi, you were prepared to overlook the problems, the red flags, to use your language, about him. You overlooked them because it is Mkhwanazi, or you simply failed in your job to properly assess a candidate.
Chair, I think the inferences sometimes are biased, and because it's based on a particular situation at a given point. My judgment would have been based on that the allegations have not been fully tested. and until you are found guilty, you are innocent. I think where Ekurhuleni we failed, I'm still going to agree, is how poorly we managed the matter of Mr. Mkhwanazi. If it was well managed, again, won't be here. If the DC continued timelessly and charges were served, maybe even he could have been exonerated and won't be here still, or will be here for a different narrative.
Aren't you being unfair to the other people, considering that you explain your inaction to pursue this disciplinary process on the basis that you were given an instruction? And when it suits you, you say it's the fault of the other people. It can be both. It's you were given an instruction, you have told us, and you've tried to explain it by saying the atmosphere in the room was clear that the city manager doesn't want this disciplinary hearing to proceed, and your position was informed by that. So you acted, you explain your inaction in this aborted disciplinary process by saying there was an instruction from the city manager. And then when it comes to the others, you say, had they done things on time, it would have happened. But if we go with your version, this DC was never going to happen because there was an instruction.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, if you follow events, if we acted within the 3 months, we might have a different narrative. Chief of Police submit a tribunal, request for a tribunal to take place in March already, I think around the 23rd of March. HRER division says, I'm applying my mind. IPD says, we can get these people arrested, so I don't want to spend money on attorneys. Come now, while we're waiting, 24th of May is there. This matter is taken again by HR and EMPD, HRER division, to the accounting officer. And the accounting officer says, all of you put this thing to rest. Now, what I'm saying, Chair, is the charges remained not fully tested. It remained allegations because they were not fully tested in the sense that go to the DC and have the outcome. And I thought the principle of law, but if I'm wrong, I'm learning today. You are innocent until you are found guilty. I think I was fearful of the fact that now that we continued, if we don't appoint him, he might take us on. You hide documents, they find them. I'm telling you, if Mr. Mkhwanazi found this document, let's say we withdraw that, we didn't see he's going to perform in this interview. We say, let's withhold and not fill the position. And he get hold of this document. I don't know if we went to courts how it was going to be. I might have not understand the principles of law, but I've learned a lot from this commission. And I think the person will continuously improve themselves and improve myself wherever I'm going. I've learned a lot. That my judgment, Chair, I'm saying the red flag is there. But when I'm thinking of the rule that says you are innocent until you are proven guilty, I could have done and consolidated those two statements or notions and come with a better judgment.
I want to suggest to you that it's not available to you or open to you to rely on that principle of innocent until proven guilty if you contributed to the disciplinary hearing not happening. It's not open to you. You can't have it both ways. You can't agree with the frustration of a disciplinary process and then later on rely on that it didn't happen and say, well, I couldn't hold it against him. It's a correct principle of law that you are quoting, but it's not available to you.
Chair, if you can clarify when you say I contributed to the disciplinary hearing not taking place, so that I can able to answer in terms of my role.
On your version, you followed Dr. Mashazi's unreasonable instruction not to discipline Commissioner Mkhwanazi. You followed that instruction, and it's unreasonable because the charges are serious. A charge sheet has been prepared. Things are at a point there may have been delays, but you are aware there's a charge sheet. It was at a point of being issued. It didn't get issued. You've seen the content of it. You know that IPID has directed that there should be a disciplinary, and you know that if you've seen the opinion that you're seeking to rely on, which we say doesn't say what you wanted it to say. If you've seen that opinion, because it does say what IPID has said. So if you read that opinion, you know that IPID has directed disciplinary proceedings, right? So you know all of that. You follow, and notwithstanding, you follow an instruction from the city manager that says, don't discipline. You follow an unreasonable instruction. So when I say you contributed, I'm saying your inaction or your readiness to follow an unreasonable, maybe even unlawful instruction from the city manager, you contributed to the DC not running. And so you can't say, well, now when it's time for interviews, I thought the DC, there was no DC against him when you had a hand in it not happening.
Chair, I get your context, Commissioner, that when I got to find out about this matter in August 2023, the way I think the report is being read, the one of the forensic report, and I don't want, I'm not sure if we must go there. I'll still stand by my conviction that in my report, if it's read in its entirety, I will never agree that I fully complied with the instruction. If the instruction says you stop this DC, you don't continue on anything. And I get the notion and the premise that says, no, you guys were looking at labor cost. But I'm still appealing to the commission that maybe the report is read once more. And as I say, my intention in the reports and some of the allegations in that report should be read the way I intended to have this matter dealt with. I get the situation where we speak about the comma and the full stop. But I'm still saying when you read allegation 4, where it says disciplinary matter relating to Julius Mkhwanazi was not properly managed by the city, it has a comma. After that comma, it goes and say, then it also resulted to unnecessary legal cost. I'm taking that. While I'm taking the brunt that we shouldn't have been here, but I still appeal to the commission that the notion, you will make your determination, but the notion that says we're trying to protect Mkhwanazi, I don't think it was necessarily the case. We could have done things better. And you are right when you say the instruction could have been done, not observed, and done differently. And I thought my approach to perpetually seek information about this matter and my intuition that says you cannot let this matter rest. And the latest where everybody stopped. My last acting on this matter, it was in October 2025. Nonetheless, decisions are made, Chair, by those who are listening and how they hear matters. I hear you, Commissioner, that I contributed for not having the matter to sit. It only said when Dr. Mashazi is gone. I take that. Nonetheless, again, I'm going to say during the time I was dealing with the matter, my notion on the events is Ekurhuleni have not tested the allegations. Therefore, it's difficult to say the employee is not going to compete, and we could have still done better. I'm taking that, but I'm still appealing that hopefully when you look at this matter in its entirety, we will see how the outcomes come out. And also one can say that this is a process where continuous improvement are going to be taken seriously, and we can do better next time. It's just difficult to agree that you just fully contributed, you had an intention not to discipline. It might look that way, but I want to say it was never my intention. Thank you.
And it's not a case of just Julius Mkhwanazi being protected. It's a case of him also being advanced because he was promoted. And with that promotion, there was you motivating that his salary be increased by 200,000 rands. So it wasn't just being protected at the position where he was. It was a case of you knowing that there were serious allegations because the forensic people who conducted the forensic investigation, they say one of the documents given to them is the charge sheet, which means by August you knew what the charges were against Julius Mkhwanazi. In October, when you support his promotion, you are aware that IPID independently has found that he's guilty of fraud and corruption and must be charged internally. And knowing those things, you still say this person is suitable for promotion to Deputy Chief of Police and an even better salary, some 200 plus over and above what he earned before. Now that is serious.
Let me make a correction. I'm not sure when I got to know about the IPID reports and the legal opinion. I said earlier on I didn't have the dates. But one thing that came to my attention in August, it was obviously the charges and the stopping of the DC. And I said already, I'm taking grant of that. We could have made better judgment. Despite that there were instructions that were made, we could still have made better judgment. On the promotion, I'm still going to say that when the charges are not proven, it becomes difficult if you already shortlisted and recommended the person for promotion.
It goes
On the
back-
issue of the salary, on the issue of the salary review, when an employee is an permanent employee, has got certain benefits, employer contribution. So when you count the breakdown, it becomes different. And what when you now put them on a total cost, when you FTC, you are putting a total cost. And number two, what we normally consider is the issue of the risk embedded, that now we are on a 5-year contract. Deputy Chief of Police Mkhwanazi was not the only person who has requested his salary to be looked at when he becomes a divisional head, convert from permanent to be divisional head. Majority of divisional heads, if I'm not mistaken, they do make that submission. And it does get considered, I'm sure 99% of them. And one thing we've picked up as an anomaly in the city is that the gap between the senior executive manager and the manager and the divisional head, the salary. In fact, in other instances, the senior executive manager will earn more than a divisional head. It's an anomaly that we're dealing with right now. So his salary review, it goes with a promotion that we could have done better. But again, you could not prejudice him in terms of the salary review. As I say that, even Rivers Peace got a salary review. Xolani Nceza got a salary review. I got a salary review, and so many people. And I say main issue, it must be noted, is because of the overlap in the salaries between that lower level and the divisional head. What I remain with, allegations, I got to know about them in August. October, we did interview, but they were not concluded. And we're learning from that we shouldn't have even shortlisted. We should not even interviewed I did say, let's re-advertise. But because Chief didn't want to extend Mzolo, if you check the events, the way I was trying to assist, I'm saying in November, I think we shortlisted in September, we interviewed in October, I can't remember now the dates. In November, I'm saying, Chief, let's extend. Because there's so many processes to be followed. Even the forensic process, Chair, I wouldn't have known it will take that long. So I have this thing that if maybe we did extend the contract of Mr. Mzolo, maybe again we won't be here, Chair.
Can I stop you there? Because I think the question was limited. Now you are dealing with issues you've already dealt with. My last point on this issue is that you will recall that there was that meeting of 18 August 2023, and arising from that meeting was that document that you prepared, which now conferred upon you the power to institute disciplinary proceedings, because it was no longer NISA. The city manager had said, you're not managing your department properly. These cases are not managed correctly. The power was now yours to say, I've looked at this charge sheet. These charges are serious. I know they were withdrawn before, but I think these charges should be pursued. It was within your powers to start that process, and you did not do so. Am I correct?
Chair, I'm going to repeat what I said. Despite that, instructions were made, and it's a pity that we're not understanding each other, and I'm taking that. I've never not continue pursuing this matter, despite how it sounds like I pursued it. And I'm not going to go again and read that allegation that I read with a comma, that surely I was talking to Mkhwanazi. While talking to Mkhwanazi, I also talked to the legal costs. Chair, I still want to convince the commission that I've never stopped. Until 2015.
Let me ask you a simple question. What stopped you in September 2023? You were looking at the charge sheet, you had it. What stopped you from serving it on Julius Mkhwanazi and saying, Julius, these charges are serious, you must answer them? What stopped you?
I've answered that, Chair, where I've said that based on the instruction that was given, it stopped.
You followed the instruction.
And when after that, I've said, Chair, when we changed the delegations, I knew that this cannot end here. Now I'm fully responsible for it. Hence, I instituted a investigation, a forensic investigation. I'm really trying to be as slow as possible. They said yesterday I was on 220 kilometers.
Mrs.
I think I'm at 10 now.
Can I stop you there? There's no need to be slow. You have now actually, in giving the answer, accepted that in terms of the delegation, after August, you could charge Julius Mkhwanazi. You didn't need a forensic investigation for that. You had the charge sheet in front of you. There was an investigation report. You did not need a forensic investigation that takes a year to conclude. You could say, these charges are serious, Julius Mkhwanazi. They were withdrawn because Mapiea said he was pressured. I now have the power in terms of this delegation. I'm serving you this charge sheet. I want you to answer to these charges because this is an HR matter that falls within my jurisdiction.
The engagement of August, Chair, I've said that instructions were given. The appetite was very clear. Despite that, there was an instruction and the appetite that you will stop this process. I still went and said, let's look as what actually happened on this matter. And while that was happening, recommendations were made, and the recommendations that were made are putting us to be here now. Saying I didn't act, I might not have expected the way Commission expected the standard of an HOD, HR would have happened. But on my competency and how I know myself, I did the best of my ability. And it could still be done better. I don't think anybody is perfect in any world. And hence I've said, we all taking blame that we could have done better here. All I'm saying, Chair, while everybody else stopped, that must be noted. I never stopped. How the report is read, I'm still appealing. Let's read it in its entirety before you make a final discussion on this matter. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mrs. Gxasheka, I want to raise a slightly different take on this issue. When I look at that promotion panel and their recommendations, and particularly the fact that both you and Chief Mappieri recommended the promotion, it seems to me that part of what was tainting that process was fear. And it seems to me that there were two possible fears that members of that panel confronted. The one was the fear of Brigadier Mkhwanazi, and you've spoken about that in your statement. You mentioned that when the issue was first raised with you in February, the chief said to you very quickly, you were wanting to discuss the evidence, and all he could talk about was how dangerous Brigadier Mkhwanazi is, and you got scared, and you wanted a threat and risk assessment, and he didn't give you the threat and risk assessment. So it seems to me that if you were scared in February, you would have been scared in in October. Is that a fair proposition to put to you?
I'm not sure if I hear you properly, Evidence Leader. You're saying if I wasn't scared in February, I wouldn't be scared in August?
No. If you were scared in February when you were first told about Brigadier Mkhwanazi, there's no reason to believe that you would have stopped being scared by the time you were on the panel, not in August, in October. Were you still afraid of this man in October?
Not really, Chair. If you remember how the process ran, in the shortlisting, the candidate doesn't even know that he's going to be shortlisted. And he never contacted me and say, shortlist me. If you don't, I'm going to have issues. I really, on this one, I'm not even going to blame certain circumstances beyond that. My judgment would have been poor. I've never had a discussion with Mkhwanazi on this particular process. The only person I had a discussion with...
Can you please try to be brief, at least with some of your answers? As I understand the question, is it October, were you still afraid of Brigadier Mkhwanazi?
Okay. Chair, the risk assessment was never done. So I didn't know if I'm safe or I'm not safe. As much as I don't recall when we're shortlisting there, I thought of that. Maybe let me put it that. But the most important thing to be known, to date, there's never been a risk assessment done to my life. I'm still waiting for that. Maybe one day I will find it, and we're hoping that will live longer. But I don't remember considering that part. Probably subconsciously, I could have thought of if we don't shortlist him, what is going to happen. But at the shortlisting level, one thing I remember was to say, let's re-advertise. And in November, again, I said, why don't we extend Mr. Mzolo's contract? Subconsciously, it can happen, and you make decisions because subconsciously your mind is thinking of something else. Thank you.
I won't push that further, but the last issue that I have to put to you is that this afternoon, this morning, Makosi Makamba saw your testimony, and she's given us an affidavit this afternoon that I have to put to you. So can I get you copies, and can I get copies for the commission?
Sorry, Mr.
Has it been?
No, it hasn't, and I was about to raise an objection to the document that the evidence leader is about to show it to the witness.
You've not had sight of it?
I've never had sight of it. It's for the first time that I hear about this document as he is busy reading now.
How many pages is it, Mr. Gxasheka?
It's 4 pages.
4 pages. And you say it's the last issue you're going to raise?
It is the last issue I'm going to raise. It's a very simple proposition. It relates to the tender, and Ms. Makamba, whose name is on the whose name was on the bid document as the contact point, said that the witness removed her from any role in the tender and took charge of the tender herself, essentially. I mean, it's that proposition.
Thank you, Mr. If it's only 4 pages, what, 10 minutes would be enough, Ms. Mabula?
Yes, 10 minutes would be fine, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Let's adjourn for 10 minutes.